Okay, we will now look at the SWOT analysis, discuss the SWOT analysis and see how it links to the PESTEL. So we'll discuss what SWOT stands for, how it links to PESTEL analysis, and then I have a group workshop for you to do, which again you need to complete on a wiki. The objectives are to identify what SWOT stands for, to investigate how the SWOT and PESTEL analysis link, and to apply your knowledge by researching the PESTEL factors. And this should also support your definitely support your first assignment, but also should support your second assignment as well. Now, the SWOT analysis, if you haven't heard about it, deals with the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats to a company. Now, it is concerned with how a company can use its strengths and weaknesses, which are internal, which is one important thing to remember, that the strengths and weaknesses are internal to a company. And in order to operate successfully in an external environment. So also it has to influence opportunities and threats that are external on an organization. So your strengths and weaknesses are internal to your organization, and obviously you use them to deal successfully with your external environment. Your opportunities and threats are external factors that influence how your organization operates. So this is just illustrated here in a bit more detail. So you can see that your strengths and weaknesses are internal in origin. So what are you good at, and what are you not so good at, and what are the opportunities arising from changes in legislations, political issues, changes in social, cultural characteristics of your population, and obviously what are the threats of these as well, what are the problems. Now, your SWOT analysis is a result of your PESTEL. So what you would do is you would add your PESTEL factors and then apply them to your SWOT analysis. So if, for example, let's take a technological factor, that the way you communicate with your clients has changed. It could be a strength because you've always been a very good company that uses technology to its advantage. And anytime new technology comes out that would benefit you, you obviously use that. However, it could also be a weakness, because if you are a company that is not very familiar with new technology, for example, a lot of bed and breakfasts, for example, don't have websites. If nowadays you don't have a website and people always need to ring you, you might not get as much business, for example, because personally I'm someone, if I want to stay somewhere, I like to see the website, I like to see some pictures, because the website tells me a lot about a company. If you don't use the internet because you don't believe it's a valid marketing tool, it's a weakness, because I might go somewhere else. Now, that me going somewhere else might be a threat, because a competitor might have a great website, they're using technology to their advantage, so here you see it's an external factor. And the threat is that you lose your business to them. And then the opportunities obviously could be that you use the new technologies. You can actually, again, if you look at technology, you get more business from people. You can, you'll be ahead of your competitors as well, things like that. So looking at all the PESTEL factors and then putting them into your SWOT analysis obviously helps you to see what you're good at, what you're not so good at, where your opportunities lie, and obviously where the threats from the external environment lie as well. So please remember that your SWOT analysis is always a result of your PEST or PESTEL analysis. Don't put any new factors into your SWOT once you do it. Yeah, so as I said, each of the PESTEL factors are evaluated through the use of the SWOT. Okay, so if you look at your enhanced SWOT analysis, yeah, so if you look at your strengths, how do I use these strengths to take advantage of opportunities? Yeah, so how can I use what I'm good at, anything that comes along that might again help me to improve on my strengths? Now, how do I use my strengths to reduce the likelihood and impact of these threats? So again, look at what you're good at, look at what the threats might be, and how can you reposition yourself? What can you do to eliminate those threats? Weaknesses, and opportunities, how do I overcome the weaknesses that prevent me from taking advantage of these opportunities? So again, if you're not very good if you don't have a website, and you don't have this opportunity of obviously getting custom through a website or online booking or whatever, there is a great opportunity there for you. So what can you do? So you can go do a web design course, you can get someone in to design a website for you, and then they show you how to update it. And obviously the opportunity then is for the market to come in and look at your website. And then you've eliminated your weakness. And then how do I address the weaknesses that will make these threats a reality? So again, weakness, you don't have a website. The threat is people go to your competitors. So, if you don't make changes, yes, you will lose your customers. Now, just to finish off, and this is actually your homework as well, I've set you a PESTEL workshop, and this will help you to get a bit more familiar with the PESTEL analysis as well. What we're going to do, or what you are going to do, is you will look at each of the PESTEL factors in much more detail. I set up wikis, and I will divide you into 6 pairs, and I will tell you the pairs via email, which is easier. Now, the group work is basically in your pairs you have to research your allocated issues. So if you are in the 2 people who look at the political aspects of the PESTEL analysis, I want you to go back to the slides where we discussed the PESTEL political aspect of the PESTEL in more detail. Go through all the aspects. So if I just show you, so if you go, let me just open this again. If you go back to this recording and go into your political and legal aspects, it tells you here obviously what you should look at: your labour market legislations, consumer legislations, the UK government and European Union. Choose some of these, don't do all of them, just choose some of these and split them. So one of you looks at those 2 and the other one looks, for example, at those 2, and come up with examples. So for example, equal pay. What is the labour market legislation on equal pay? Health and safety. What is the legislation on health and safety? So you have to come up with specific examples. Food labelling. What's on consumer legislation? For example, what is the rule on food labelling? What's the UK's tax policy? Income tax. What's the business tax? What have they done? Things like that. What you then do once you've researched that is you will put this into the wiki. What I would like you to do is tell me where you got your information from as well. So obviously everyone else, if you're economic, you look at economic factors, you go back to the economic bit. If you're social, you go back to the social, cultural factors, and so on. What you will then do is you will see, are they past, present, or future issues. So did they happen in the last 10 years? So when did a new legislation come up? When was the industry impacted by certain economic issues? are they happening now, and what's happening in the future? It's important actually that you look at these 3 bits, because in your first assignment you have to look at past, present and future pastel issues. What will happen then, once you all have collected this information, you will then be able to share it for your assessments. So please make sure you actually do this research, because it's the first step towards being able to do your assignment. It supports your research as well. Again, we can go through this in tutorial, and if you have questions, just ask them. Yeah. Further reading, go to the cultural research. Actually, next lesson is the competitive advantage, and after that is the assessment workshop. So make sure you read through your assessment, through the first assignment, and you will then see how this pastel workshop actually supports the assignment as well. And then if you have any questions, we discuss them in tutorial.